Lots of Lakers fans think small ball is a failure. So why is JJ Redick look like he's going back to it? We'll explain next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, even on holidays. No matter how you get your podcast, maybe that's Apple, maybe that's Spotify. Andy, maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to the Locked On Lakers YouTube channel. I see you here every day, so I know you're a regular. No matter how you do it, you are part of making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in this or any other known universe. And we appreciate you doing that. I'm Brian Kaminsky. Oh, sorry. I did. Hold for applause. I'm Brian Kaminsky with Ayton. You've been busy today.
And, I'm messing around a little bit with the sound buttons. I want to try to keep the show fresh.
I'm Brian Kaminsky with Andy Kaminsky, nearly 20 years covering the Lakers with ESPN, with The Athletic, with the LA Times. This Grammy road trip every year since we've been doing this, it's a doozy. We'll get to this small ball question I raised in the open there in just a moment. We do want to let people know, though, Austin Reaves is not going to play this afternoon, Wednesday afternoon in Cleveland. The hope is that he'll be back before the end of the road trip. And Andy, since this road trip seems to go on forever, there's still plenty of chances for Austin to play.
Yeah, I believe it ends in April. So between now and then, I'd like to think Austin's going to return. There had been some hope that he could be available Wednesday night in Cleveland, but he's not. I think whether Friday versus the Wizards, Sunday versus the Knicks, Tuesday versus the Nets, all indications are they're pretty confident that Austin will be able to play in at least one of those games, if for no other reason than given how cautious this team tends to be and cagey about information regarding injuries, and they generally do not want to ever give the indication of overpromising and underdelivering when it comes to that specific thing. They'll just let you think that somebody is day-to-day for a year looking at you, Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah.
But they generally do not give anything like even semi-concrete information. Like JJ said, right. We are expecting him to return. He's been doing more full court workouts, stuff with full contact, things like that. They're not going to let that info out and voice it the way they did unless they are not pretty confident he's going to be back.
Yeah, unless they meant next year's Grammy road trip, but you never know. We weren't that specific. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Obviously, JJ will be asked about it at the very least before the game Wednesday afternoon in Cleveland, Wednesday evening, depending on how you want to look at it.
No Evan Mobley, by the way.
Correct.
Cleveland. Stop me if you've heard this before. Calf strain.
Yeah.
Out 1 to 3 weeks.
The rare player not coming back before they play the Lakers. Sam Merrill, though, will be available because anybody who knows how to shoot a three-pointer will always hurry back to get an opportunity to play the Lakers. So somebody to watch on the perimeter for Cleveland. Very effective three-point shooter. So let's talk about small ball, Andy, because if you talk about small ball, particularly after the way the playoffs went last season, the Lakers losing to Minnesota, when you talk about small ball, people, many Lakers fans get upset. They don't want to hear about small ball. They don't want to talk about small ball. They don't want anybody to be playing small ball. Nothing small around here, folks. This from Trevor Lane, though. We talked to for yesterday's show about the success the Lakers have had with Rui Hachimura on the floor of late. From Trevor, the great Lakers Nation guy. Small sample size warning, but the Lakers are a plus 28.8 per 100 possessions in 255 possessions with Rui Hachimura on the court without a center. That means no DeAndre Ayton, no Jackson Hayes, no Maxi Kleba. Trevor goes on to say an ultra-switchy foundation featuring some combo of LeBron, Rui, Vando, with Luka, Smart, and LaRavia has noticeably ramped up their defensive pressure and floor spacing. The deeper into the season we get, the more we're being pulled back into a lineup that resembles Redick's most trusted group last year: Luka, Reaves, Rui, Dorian Finney-Smith, and LeBron. Andy, you're a Lakers fan.
Mm-hmm. IRL, baby.
What say you?
It's interesting. When you and I were texting, just doing show prep and stuff like that, coming up with topics, you had asked me whether or not I thought that this is fool's gold, like the success that Trevor cited.
Well, yeah, okay, go on.
Well, that's the way you framed it. It was whether or not
it's one of the questions people can ask, for
right.
Sure.
And it was one that you asked me, as we were going back and forth. And I thought about it, and what I really landed on, it depends on how you're defining fool's gold. Like last year, I think people got ahead of themselves thinking the Lakers could make a deep playoff run. They ended up getting bounced in the first round by the Wolves. And there's some extenuating circumstances and context that we should get into and will. But bottom line, like the royal we, and I would include us in that specific way, got a bit ahead of ourselves. So I think if you are thinking about this look as the key that was uncovered to get to the finals, yeah, it could very well be fool's gold, because it is unusual to see teams with this type of personnel have the type of defense over multiple rounds to reach the finals, like to get through it. But I think if you treat this as simply the best of some flawed options with a likely ceiling that will require them to catch some breaks, but they can at the same time also have some really impressive and effective possessions or sustained minutes, things like that, then I don't think it's fool's gold, because I think you're not treating it as gold in the first place. Like I think a lot of this, and this is really taking lessons from last season, and again, some of the context that we'll get into, I think a lot of this has to do with treating it properly in the first place.
Okay. I can see where you're going with that. It's certainly more aggressive than I would have thought. I mean, I when I talk about fool's gold, I just mean that, again, as Trevor points out, small sample size theater, that, you could argue that it's just not going to be effective once you start getting into the playoffs at all.
As opposed to the other stuff?
I think that, with the way you're describing it, I don't think there is a gold. Like there's
that's important to remember, though. That is actually
if you're defining gold as large as the thing that can get them into the finals, then I don't think that's an option. For me, the question is not whether or not it's something that they would start leaning into, and as soon as you get in the playoffs, you're going to run into a buzzsaw. It's the question is, there's two of them as I think about it. First, is the lineup working? And if the lineup works, the lineup works. If you have success going relatively small, particularly in crunch time, I don't think you could do it all game, but particularly in crunch time.
Well, the Lakers tried to do it last year as much throughout games as they could.
There's especially in the playoffs, there's that's going to get to my second point.
Well, JJ's preferred lineup at parts in the finals became his only lineup.
He liked that one. that one.
Yeah,
that was really like that one lineup.
Yeah. I don't think I'm ever going to get past that.
You are not.
Nope.
So there is the basic question:
crazy. Does
the lineup work? Are you successful with that alignment out on the floor? And the answer last year was generally yes. And the answer this year in this small sample size has been yes, for reasons that make sense. You're going to have, especially when Austin's back, your three best players plus, a legitimate floor spacer in Rui, with LeBron at the part of the game that he can put out the most amount of energy, where Luka is most focused defensively, where you can have Marcus Smart out there. Like, you have choices here in ways to arrange this lineup that, particularly for 5 or 6 or 7 minutes at the end of a game when everybody's locked in, could be pretty formidable, I think, for teams to have to deal with. So there is that. That's point number one. The lineup objectively doesn't work. It appears so early. We'll find out more over the next few games. The second point, though, I think gets to what you were talking about before, and what kind of, I think, fans might be overlooking when they react the way they do to small ball. We'll explain it next.
I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage, we got tuition, we got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. That's ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Ethos.com/LockedOnNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
Before we keep going, Andy, I do want to remind people that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, you can bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So, look, I mean, a lot of teams go small. It is not unusual these days. The Lakers can do it still with a decent amount of length on the floor. Small doesn't necessarily mean 5 guards. All that. The problem with small ball in the playoffs last year, which is where the Lakers fans have the most trauma, is not that the Lakers had a preferred small ball lineup. It's that, as you mentioned, it was their only lineup. When they didn't have any other centers, when they kind of decided Jackson Hayes was essentially unplayable, and we don't have to relitigate that. I don't think he was very good in that series. Once you made that choice, all you were left with small ball. It was small ball. The question isn't what lineup is most effective for the Lakers. If you think you want to try to win a round or two in the playoffs, you can roll with that most effective lineup whenever you think you can, as long as you have other options that you can go to. And I think the Lakers would still be able to go big. They've had success of late with these sort of center with Timmy and all these larger lineups that they've tried. It's not been unsuccessful. And I think it's way too early to bury DeAndre Ayton, which, by the way, is a lot of where this conversation comes from. It's too early to bury Jackson Hayes, who is a much better version of the guy that he was last year. So if the Lakers have viable alternatives, then a preference for small ball, particularly down the stretch, shouldn't bother anyone. It's only when they don't that people should get alarmed.
Well, I mean, 2 points on that. First of all, I think on balance, they have better personnel overall for this over longer sustained periods if they find that this is at least a piece of their best look than they did last season. Like, I think Jake LaRavia and Marcus Smart both fit the scheme well. Vando is necessary for a look like this to be sustainable for either longer chunks of games or even some of the crunch time.
And has been more viable this year than
well. I was going to say, JJ, at least for the time being, has way more trust in Vando than he did last season or just in the beginning of this season. Or for that matter, JJ trusts Jake and Marcus more than he trusted Vando or Jordan Goodwin in the playoffs. And like, once you start eliminating two guys who actually are important for a look like that, you start limiting your ability to do it with any type of sustainability, if for no other reason than it gets tiring. Like, it gets really taxing. So you need more dudes that you will put out there to actually do it. Also, too, I mean, as far as thinking about this through the prism of last season and the playoffs, look, if Austin gets hurt during the playoffs, or Luka is, last year, Austin got hurt during the playoffs or was dealing with that toe injury. Luka was still dealing with the effects of a recent injury upon getting traded to the Lakers. And LeBron got hurt during the series. So, like, in that sense, if your top three players are lesser versions of themselves, then the defensive strategy, or frankly, any strategy you're talking about, becomes kind of irrelevant, because you're not going to go anywhere if your top three players are in compromised versions of themselves. The other reason, though, I think this may work better than last season is JJ's just mixing up more looks, period. He's doing more things. He's moving more outside his comfort zone. He's moving more outside of things that I think don't really match his basketball ethos or philosophy, worldview, but he's starting to recognize, I have to move outside that more and coach the roster and the situation that I have. A great example is the 2 on the ball look that he did against Jamal Murray in the win over Denver. That is something JJ has on the record said many times, I don't want to do that. He recognized we have to do that. And I think he has said, we are searching for answers. We're going to get weird at times. I applaud him for doing that, because I think frankly, for a lot of last year and even some of this year, JJ was sticking with the same thing for too long when it wasn't effective, and just expecting it to somehow become better than it was, because that's the way he saw the game or saw the roster or whatever. This year, I think he's doing a better job of just shaking things up, keeping guys engaged through shaking things up, keeping them on their toes. And I think it is part of what's made things more effective.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with certainly chunks of that at the very least. It's they have the roster, to me, is the big issue here, because I realize it is extraordinarily top heavy. It is extremely thin, I think, in a lot of ways. You have guys who are forced to play rotation minutes. Gabe Vincent, for example, who are not playable. I respect the hell out of Gabe Vincent and, the work that it's taken for him to establish himself in the league. He is a professional. He is, he really is. JJ gets, made fun of for that. I wish I had 10 Gabe Vincent's comments, but from a coaching standpoint, he is the type of professional that every coach wishes they had 1 through 15. He is not good enough right now to be part of a high-level playoff rotation. Just not.
Forget high-level playoff rotation. There's a real question about, assuming he's on the team after the deadline, once Austin's back, if he should be getting any minutes at all.
I don't think he's going to play very much at all. But I mean, I just mean, like, if you're a team, he is currently playing rotation minutes on a team that, at least publicly, will tell you they have, they are aiming for a long playoff run. Gabe Vincent is in their rotation. He's not good. He's not nearly a good enough shooter to justify, defensively, the effort is there. He's too easy to pick on. Inside the 3-point arc, he is borderline useless offensively. It's just not working. The Lakers seem to have found something in Timmy, but you got to be real careful how you use it. There is a point of diminishing returns if you have to lean on him too much. Like, the back end of their rotation is just kind of dicey. But it's still better suited right now, I think, to compete than it was last year, because Hayes is better. DeAndre Ayton, for all the ups and downs that we've seen over the last, 3 weeks or so, is still far more competent than, nobody, which is their option last year. Maxi, or like the fingers crossed hope that maybe Maxi Kleber could play. Like Ayton's still a competent NBA player. You've added Timmy, you have LaRavia, you have they're better suited right now to make that. Because remember, Dorian Finney-Smith in the playoffs last year was terrible. He was banged up. He was ineffective. And so, it's not, you have to judge this by the actual player that was on the floor, not the concept of the DFS that everybody liked.
Or what he brought to the locker room leadership. Like all those things mattered. Like they absolutely mattered. But DFS started out the half season he was with the Lakers much stronger than he ended it. And to your point, he was hurt. That's why he missed the opening, 30-ish games for the Rockets.
Yeah.
He needed surgery. Again, for the time being, Luka is healthier right now than he was for really, I think, all of the last half season with the Lakers. LeBron is healthier right now. Sciatica recovery, foot joint arthritis, maintenance, and all than he was by the end of the playoffs, where he said, had there been a game 6, I would not have been able to play.
The knee injury, couldn't play.
And I know Austin's coming off an injury, but hopefully when he returns, there are no setbacks, there's no anything else. And if that's the case, he will likely be a better version of what he was than in the playoffs last year. Again, this all makes a huge contextual difference. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll make enough of a difference for a deep playoff run, but you got to work with what you have.
It also means that if in these moments where they go to small ball, they can do so strategically and from a place of perceived advantage rather than necessity, where it is literally the only lineup you feel like you can play, or as it was in game 4, the only lineup you play. All right, so let's talk, Andy, the trade deadline. It's coming up very quickly. Dave McMenamin from ESPN wrote some interesting stuff about what the Lakers might be thinking as we get closer. We'll do it next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. It's finally settled. The last team standing in the NFL. We know the matchups: Patriots, Seahawks, Super Bowl 60. FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger than the last one. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from the kickoff to the final whistle. And if you're a new customer, bet just $5. You get 200 bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after Super Bowl 60, the season, it's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Locked on Lakers is also brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. So instead of spending hours trying to figure out your forms, deductions, how many charitable donations did I make, all that, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms. Andy and I know a lot about that. That can be a pain in the butt, and work with you to get every deduction that you are entitled to. So for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. And if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, or if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Again, $150 all in if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year. If you do it by the 28th, take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. So I do want to mention as well the Everydayer Club. We appreciate everybody tuning into Locked On Lakers. If you ever miss an episode, the Everydayer Club, it's built for you. Locked On Lakers has a ad-free, member-only Discord access. All this stuff that you want out of your Locked On Lakers experience. $5 a month, $50 a year, lockedonlakers.supercast.com. And with the trade deadline coming up, we want to give you a free month now of the new Everydayer Club service to help you get ready. You get access to the Discord channel that I just mentioned, but also the national chats where you can hang out with fans and pundits from the Locked On Network from all across the league. Andy and I are in these Discord chats, and other guys are too. So you get the ad-free versions of the show, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use the code deadline to get your first month free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Andy, Dave McMenamin breaking down stuff about what the Lakers might be doing. And so, he talks about how the Lakers haven't had much luck getting Austin and Luka and LeBron on the floor together at the same time. They've only shared the court together for 8 games. He writes
That's insane, by the way, side note.
It kind of is. It would stand. And by the way, the Lakers have won a lot of basketball games despite all this.
That's part of what makes it insane.
It would stand to reason for the Lakers to make moves on the margins around these 3, but there has to be at least some consideration of the fact that James and Reaves are both impending free agents, holding on to their most current coveted asset, their 2031 or 2032 first round pick, could be needed to use it as part of a bigger deal when the NBA business calendar turns over this summer, and they'll have more picks available to put in a package, possibly to replace part of their core. But, he continues, in the past month, league sources have told ESPN the Lakers have canvassed teams to see whether they could find a deal to send out their 2031 or 32 first-round pick in order to get multiple first-round picks back for it. That would give them more stuff to trade, as well as throwing in those expiring contracts like Gabe or Maxi, or, if it were the right deal, somebody like Rui. So, I guess more talk of the Lakers kind of doing stuff on the margins, but also talk perhaps of the need to take advantage of this big 3, trying to get creative perhaps by seeing if they could turn 1 first-round pick into 2 or 3 first-round picks.
I'm very curious to see what the pitch is to this other team. that pick that we're not sure how good it may be down the future. What say you take it from us and give us 3 of your own?
That works really well if you know you're sitting on like a lottery pick this season.
Yes.
Like, hey, we have Utah's first round pick. We have Washington's first round pick. We'll dangle that out there. We'll give you that, but we want 2 first rounders and a swap or a second.
Yeah.
I could see how that, especially in the draft upcoming, that could get somebody's attention. We want to see if you can give us 2 first rounders for 1 first rounder in 2031 when Luka will still be at like 30.
Yeah.
And you have no idea if the Lakers are going to be good or bad. That seems like a tough sell.
Well, I would love to be in the room when these sort of talks happen anyway, just because it would be really
fun.
I mean, look, years ago, Brian and I did a piece for ESPN, the magazine, and it was during how long ago it was? It was during the Dirk Nash era of the Mavericks, but we actually got to sit in one of those meetings, like observing. It wasn't draft day. It was just a front office basketball related meeting. We are not allowed to report anything that went on, just to get the vibe of it. Seeing that in and of itself was pretty damn interesting, but I would love to see how Rob pitches the idea of, we give you 1 pick, you give us 3
or 2 or even
Gabe
1
Vincent.
and a second rounder.
You give us 3 picks, we give you 1, but we also, I guess maybe if a team is that desperate to get off some finances, maybe it involves taking back some money. I don't know, but either way, would love to see the pitch.
When I see things like this, my position on this has long been that the Lakers are very aware of public opinion. They're very aware of the perception, and Dave actually writes about this a little bit in his story, that like there will be a sense of disappointment, certainly among Lakers fans, and in the media, it would be seen perhaps as something they could beat up a little bit, just because here you go, another deadline goes by without much action. Now, granted, the Lakers did.
I was going to say, I mean,
last year,
the Lakers may not have made a deadline day move. I think it is very semantics heavy to say that they weren't doing much around the deadline.
Right. And I, the counter to, okay, they had Luka handed to him, which is true, is you're also put in a situation like that where your entire organization has been completely turned upside down, and trying to fix that on the fly at one deadline is not good. But now you go into the off season. The Lakers were hamstrung, but Rob Pelinka had made big noise about we're gonna be aggressive out there. All of a sudden, that turned very quickly into you need to have multiple dance partners to make anything work. And so there's always this feeling from Lakers fans that Pelinka is kicking the can down the road. But the next one, Andy, the next one is going to be the one where the Lakers really make their big bold moves. So I think they're very sensitive to that. I think Rob is sensitive to that. I also think they both don't really want to do anything big because they'd rather wait for the summertime when they have more cap flexibility and more draft pick flexibility.
Which in a vacuum can be a defensible approach.
100%. And I also think that they are also in a box where it's going to be very hard for them to do anything. So, in some ways, it's actually a good deadline for Rob. He can talk about stuff and look aggressive and leak things to the media and make it look like the Lakers are being very active and turning over every rock and stone, knowing full well he probably won't be able to do anything big anyway. So that's how I take all of these things.
I mean, I don't totally read it that way, if for no other reason than by now they should realize that if this is a strategy, like a PR messaging strategy, it ain't working. So that
well, I agree with that.
No, but I'm saying that's why I don't treat it purely as just trying to message, because if nothing else, you would attempt a different message because you have exhausted this one messaging. And if you think you're doing it to gain cover, there are many things about this organization that they don't do vigilantly enough. We've talked about it. One of those things is not listen to what everybody says about them. We know for a fact this is a rabbit ears organization.
Sure,
they hear
everything. I just think we look at it differently. I think that's partially why they do this stuff.
That's fine. If you are correct, at the very least, they are both massively and inexplicably overrating the effectiveness of this messaging.
Oh, I would agree with that.
I think there's an element of, one of Rob's favorite words is optionality. I think I think Rob likes to sometimes leave optionality out there to the point of never actually taking a path. I also just think Rob often is not. This is why they need a larger front office. There are certain detail pieces of this in building a roster that I don't think are high on Rob's to-do list, and those are some of the things that you would be doing around the deadline. I also feel like
I think he only likes doing the thing that is plainly obvious to be a positive move.
In fairness, though, to Rob, to whatever degree this is messaging, real, whatever, and for what it is worth, the way Dave wrote this thing, it felt much more like, at least to me, Dave editorializing his thoughts on this as opposed to something he was being fed. Obviously, his editorializing comes from him knowing the front office very well. Dave has been doing this for a very long time. He's very good at this stuff. But it didn't feel to me like him being fed stuff. Regardless, what I think, in fairness to Rob, may be a complicating factor, regardless of whatever they want fans to think, this may not be a very active deadline. There is an expectation that particularly with Giannis so unsettled and injured, and the fact that he's injured could prevent teams from trading for him because they don't know exactly when he's going to be back. They don't know if he will be available, much less effective during the playoffs. There is an expectation that a lot of teams are going to want to keep themselves plausibly Giannis viable. And until they know exactly that Giannis is off the table for them, they are only going to go so drastic into this deadline anyway. They're only going to be so aggressive because they want to hang on to what they have that might help them with Giannis. My hope is that if the Lakers are not active at the deadline, it is simply because there weren't enough other teams active to create partners, or they didn't see what they like. I really hope it is not because they just want to wait around for that chance that they might get Giannis.
I think it's less about that. I do think
Good.
They would. I think they see, and I think with some cause that there is, they're a better chance to do more stuff in a more coherent environment of the off season than they do with this trade deadline. Now, that said, there are deals out there, names out there where it could potentially make sense, as you say, to start building out next year's team this year. And that is something that we can carry on through the rest of the week. Obviously, we will be back after the game Wednesday evening in Cleveland to break it all down for you. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 37,000 subscribers. Check out the Everydayer Club there thing, and we'll see you tomorrow.